Hello, I'm Scott Swanson, the editor and publisher of the Lebanon Local and the New Era community newspapers. I'd like to welcome you to our forum for the Republican candidates, or I should say two of the Republican candidates for seat 3 of the Linn County Commission. The purpose of this forum is to help the candidates connect with you, the voters. This is made possible by our newspapers, The New Era and Lebanon Local, as well as with support from the Lebanon and Sweet Home Chambers of Commerce. Our original plan was to have a public forum with a lot of interaction between you, the public, and the candidates, but obviously for reasons that I think we all understand, that's not going to happen. And so this is what we've been able to do. And we've opted to do this in a YouTube format, and we will be posting it, and you're hopefully watching it. We appreciate the use of the Santiam travel station, which is used for the Lebanon City Council and school board meetings. They're well set up with the technology that's making this possible, so we appreciate that. Today we have one candidate in the room with me, Sherry Springer, and another, Carrie Johnson, who's going to be coming in remotely. And we have two others, Bill Schrader and Jack Tacey, who could not participate. So our moderator is Bob Burford, the retired police chief of Sweet Home. We appreciate his help with this, and you'll see him in a moment in action. We have already flipped a coin, and Carrie is going to start, and then we're going to rotate back and forth in the order of the answers to the questions that we're going to be asking. At the end, both candidates will get a 2-minute opportunity to make a final statement. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to get out of the way so we can get going here.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, before we get started with the questions, what we'd like to do is give each candidate a moment to introduce themselves. So, Carrie, if you would like to do that.
Hi, I'm Carrie Johnson. I'm running for Linn County Commissioner. I'm a lifelong resident of SIO, and I care about jobs, small business, mental health, and drug issues. I think I've lost the feed. Sorry.
We're still hearing you, Carrie.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. My screen went dark, so I apologize. I'm ready to work on the issues that make our community a better place for us, our kids, and our grandkids.
All right. Thank you very much. Sherry.
Thank you. Sherry Springer here, candidate for Linn County Commissioner, Zone 3. I'm excited about this race, and I'm excited about being your next county commissioner. Let me tell you why. I live a mile and a half from the house I grew up in. Our son attended the K-8 school that I attended. We both attended the same school. My roots are deep here. I have spent the last 12 and a half years in Salem advocating for the needs of my friends and my family and neighbors in this area. And I had a young gal come up to me considering running for this position, and she didn't. And she said, you know, I can make decisions as a city councilor for my community, so I must be able to do more at the state level. And I said, interesting. The reason I am running for commissioner and no longer state rep is so I'm closer to home and can impact the quality of life for my friends and neighbors even greater than I have at the state level. So some would call this stepping down. I call this coming home to my roots.
Carrie will get the first question, and then after that, I'll call on Sherry to answer. Rotate between each. Okay.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear.
Okay, one moment here. We'll try to get this taken care of. Any difference now?
A little, but not a lot. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I am number 13 if it's the same mic. We'll try to get this straightened up, Karen. Can you hear me now?
I can, but not very. Go ahead.
Is it just quiet or is it distorted?
It's a both.
All right.
That was better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you hear? So it's clear to go ahead now?
Yes. Yes. Now I can hear.
All right. All right. So you have the first question, Carrie, and it's a very straightforward one. Why do you want to be a Linn County Commissioner?
With Commissioner Tucker retiring, creating the opening, I felt compelled to take my experience in agriculture, 4-H, as a small business owner and someone who has founded a local community bank to the commission to provide common sense decision-making to the commission issues. Voters need to have an advocate who understands limited budgets, unnecessary regulations, public safety concerns, and I feel my skill set will represent the citizens of Linn County well.
All right. Thank you very much. Sherry, same question. And by the way, if either of you need me to repeat the question at any time, just ask.
Please do.
Why do you want to be a Linn County Commissioner?
Thank you for that. So I've spent the last 12 and a half years in Salem advocating for the issues that are near and dear to the hearts of people in Linn County and portions of Marion County. In that time, I've served as a member of the minority party up there and learned that I had to build relationships and I have to have trust and integrity to advocate for the needs of those. And to do that, it was hard work, it was fun work, it was good work. And so I'm ready to bring those skills, old term, but Rolodex, if you will, I'm ready to bring that home, all those contacts I have, and advocate again for those needs that are here. I understand how to build budgets. I was a co-chair in 2011 of the Ways and Means Subcommittee for Education. That means I helped build that budget and worked within the constraints of our state constitution. So I'm ready to bring that home, to advocate here, to bring that Rolodex, if you will, that I have, and problem solve for folks here in this county. My son and his family have relocated here in the last year, and I want this to be a great place for them to stay and raise their family.
Thank you for that. And Sherry, you will be answering the second question first.
Sure.
What do you see as one of the biggest concerns for Linn County residents? And if you're elected commissioner, how would you address those concerns?
Sure. So I think one of the things that I hear the most about, whether it's at the state level, the county level, the city level, is public safety. If we don't feel safe, other things in our lives are hard to do and to do well. And perfect example of that is the levy for the Linn County Sheriff's Department. That levy is critical to the operations of not only that department in the county, but other departments in this county. And it was just a few months ago that the state released a report done by the federal government that talked about sex abuse rates at the Oregon Youth Correction Facility. Now, some of us know that there's two facilities there, or there's two entities in that facility. You have the state and you have the county. But a lot of people don't know that. We don't track that necessarily. And so it was very important. And I created a press release that said that the stats of the kids that we are most concerned about were not okay. Any stat is not okay of a kid being hurt, but was on the state side. It was important to protect what's going on at the county level so people have a sense of confidence in their local government to continue with that levy. I think that's one of the big things. And of course, the economic development around here, Lebanon in particular in Linn County has done a great job. Many other towns have, but Lebanon just stands out, excuse me, with the growth that they've had over the last few years. And we need to continue that. And part of that is taking care of the red tape at the state level that sometimes makes it too cumbersome to do a project.
Thank you. Carrie, same question.
I think right now our biggest concern is getting our economy back on track after this economic collapse. That's the number one priority, tied with looking for newly unemployed people who are trying to figure things out as well. I think the Board of Commissioners needs to petition the governor to open the state in phases as soon as possible. And I don't see any reason right now why healthcare industry is shut down. So that would be my answer.
All right, thank you. Okay. Your question to answer first. What would be your top priority if you were elected to the county commission?
It's all about the recovery and being sensitive to the hundreds of small businesses who are now displaced. I think that this is job number one.
All right. Carrie?
Thank you. You know, as I looked at this question and thought about it a little bit, our top priority and maybe our first priority are not the same thing. And that answer's changed in just the last 2 months. Our first priority is to maintain the infrastructure that we have that supports small businesses. And frankly, I'm on a call daily with either the governor's office, the Oregon Health Authority. I've been on calls with the White House talking about opening up the state and opening up particularly our hospitality industries. So in those calls, I've strongly advocated over and over for a prudent and timely opening. And frankly, I think we're at that point where it's time to start letting businesses reopen carefully. We don't need to jeopardize people. And as I've said many times, the stay-at-home order had its place and it had its time. And the good thing about that order and opening up our state is anybody that doesn't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable leaving their home, they don't have to. They don't have to. I think we can find a middle ground now, and it's time for that middle ground. My top priority, and I'm looking at that question slightly different. The top priority, as I have said since day one that I announced, when I announced on the courthouse steps that I was running, being endorsed by current Commissioner Will Tucker, is I do 100 meetings in 100 days. So why do that? What's the significance of that? To listen to folks, to know what they want. I think I know what they want, but I want to hear clearly, and certainly times have changed in the last 2 months. So that's going to be my focus.
Thank you. And Sherry, this next question will be yours to start with. So what is your opinion of the county's response to the COVID-19 outbreak, and what do you think will need to be done to move forward once the shutdown?
Thank you for that question. I think by and large, I've been attending the county commissioner meetings. By and large, I think the county has done a pretty good job. I think something important for all of us to remember in this process is the numbers and the data changes, not even daily, but multiple times in a day. And a decision that was good on Monday is no longer a decision that is good on Tuesday. And so with that, we have to extend a little grace as the decisions have been made because the information is changing. I think the county has done a pretty good job. I've been in contact with them on a regular basis, been advocating at the state level for the things that they need. And what I've found is it's not as much about protocol, because frankly, we didn't have a COVID-19 protocol. What it's about is the relationships and being able to pick up my phone and call someone and say, we need some PPE here, or we need some access to this, or I know that have that person's number, you call them and see if you can get what you need. So I think that the county has done a pretty good job. I think it's time to reopen. And I think as we do that, that will also be a challenging process. I don't think it's as simple as changing the sign on the front door of the business closed to open. I think there's a process in there, and that's a process that I'm ready and willing to step up to the plate and help facilitate.
Carrie.
I think we have to be innovative. We're going to need to do things that we've never done before. None of us have been through this before, so we have to work collaboratively and dig deep to find the solutions to help people. A lot of people are going to need help, and we need to be there for them. I believe the commission is doing the best they can under the circumstances. They will be getting 1,000 tests per week for anyone who is symptomatic and has no other resources for a test. They will be doing them at convalescent homes, medical clinics and other places. The commissioners have taken a stance that dollars are not going to be a barrier for having tests done for people who need them. And I commend them for that.
All right. Thank you very much. Next question will be yours, Terry. The county commission has been very active lately in court, leading to a successful $1.4 billion class action lawsuit in 2016.
You're getting a little soft again.
All right.
Sorry.
We'll try it a little bit.
There. Thank you.
That better?
Yes, better.
I've never been accused of being soft-spoken, so you'll have to apologize to you there. I'll start again. The county commission has been very active lately in court, leading to a successful $1.4 billion class action lawsuit in 2016 against the Oregon Department of Forestry, charging mismanagement of Oregon Forest Trust lands. What do you think about this lawsuit? What would you propose to do with the proceeds from the case if the county prevails?
Linn County was a leader in this issue, and I applaud them for that. There's still a long time before this issue is going to be resolved, and we will manage the income based on what is best for the people of Linn County and the timber industry interests. I do believe the pipeline program supporting the workforce development in Albany, Lebanon, and Sweet Home would be a great place for part of the $51,995,339 that Linn County is going to receive. I'll work diligently to see that we receive this settlement and ensure that it's not treated as a windfall.
All right, thank you very much. And Sherry?
Thank you. I think the decision to initiate this class action lawsuit was a good one that I support. And I think the greatest asset, the greatest win in this process will not necessarily be the dollars and a check that is written, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But what it does is it sets a precedent and it creates a solid framework for this state to move forward as it harvests timber. What was decided in this lawsuit was not just money to go back to an entity, and we're not even to the point that we have a check to cash yet. This is about how the state manages the forest, and thankfully, this lawsuit appeals process is clarifying that. So what I think that translates into is down the road, we're going to see higher incomes going into the county general fund because our forests will be managed better than they have been managed. As far as any proceeds, and keep in mind this is a class action lawsuit, there are multiple counties in play here, and there's certainly going to be a lot that goes to attorney fees. Money that comes in like this, and I know this from years of working on state budgets, you don't go start a new great program because you may not have the dollars to sustain that. This goes into maybe capital expenditures, one-time expenditures, but it doesn't go to create a new program because now you're going to be coming back to taxpayers saying, will you give us more tax dollars so we can continue this great program that came from this one check? So I think we need to be careful in that and very judicious. And frankly, before we can talk about how we're spending it, we need to know, number one, we're getting it, number two, how much it's going to be, but certainly not one-time, or it's one-time expenditures, not establishing programs.
All right, thank you very much. And Sherry, this will be yours to answer first. Economically, how do you rate where the county is right now? And what do you intend to do to move the county forward in this area should you be elected?
It's interesting, this question would have a totally different answer 2 months ago. But that's not where we find ourselves right now. 2 months ago, I would have said this county is in a pretty good position, not the best, it can always be better, but that's not where we find ourselves now. I am talking to business owners on a daily basis, calling me saying, I'm having trouble with rent this month. And so I take and I connect those to the resources I have in Salem to help them access some of the stimulus money. And hopefully that is working for them. But the reality is right now, we have got to give a lifeline to our local businesses because it's not just, I've heard in Salem for years, people talk about, well, it's just about business and business isn't that great. Business is what moves money in our economy, in our local areas. That is so important. When we order from JC Barbecue and they deliver out at Lacombe and we all show up in the parking lot at Lacombe School, we're moving money into the economy, and that is important. So the first thing to do is help those businesses connect with the resources that are out there to keep them viable. We will come out of this, but it will take us a little bit of time. Brief story, years ago, a local business in Sweet Home came to me and said, there's this grant money, I would like to access it. So I brought the state folks in that department into my office. We all sat there and they said, well, you need to be able to do X, X, and X, and you're not doing it. And I said, these guys are doing it, they just don't talk about it in the way you want it talked about. So I helped those guys talk about it in the way the state was looking for it, and they got the grant. And that's the kind of thing we need to continue, especially at this time.
Thank you. And Carrie?
I think we were doing fine up until the pandemic, but now we are teetering on the edge of a depression. I don't know what the future holds, but now more than ever, we have to work together. We must get out of our way to support small local businesses and the newly unemployed people and families. I've been a small business owner my entire life. We will manage and we'll get through. Personally, with my bank chairmanship, I've seen what businesses are going through right now. And as a banker, I'm very proud of how we've handled the unprecedented loan volume through the SBA PPP program. Our bankers are working remotely and around the clock to get this money out to our Linn County small businesses. We're getting our pipeline ready for the second round. And I think what part of the community doesn't understand is this money is coming directly from the banks here. So one of the best things that they can do is support our banks with deposit dollars so that we can continue the flow of getting this money back out into our communities.
All right, thank you. And Carrie, again, this next question, you'll be the first to answer it. State government leaders have pursued an agenda that many rural residents, including Linn County, believe does not reflect rural interests. As a county commissioner, what would your strategy be to address the challenge of a Democratic supermajority's agenda in Salem?
I think that's true, and I think we have limited fighting. We have limitations in fighting Portland politics. We're a conservative county with hardworking blue-collar people. I will always be their advocate, and I will take my experience in ag, natural resources, and small business to make sure that they are represented the best way possible.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I love this question. It's been the theme of my professional life for over 12 years now. Fighting Portland liberal ideas. One issue that comes to mind is the cougar issue. Worked on that many years. Most of my constituents have said, need help with this. We need you to work on this issue, and I have. Frankly, not to the degree of success that I would feel good about sitting here before you today, but I have gotten that bill passed out of the House, and I have gotten it close to being signed by the governor in, I think, the 8 years that I've worked on that issue. So that is something I've done a long time and a lot of, and as I thought about this question, what's the key? And I guess the key would be having relationships with the Democrats in the building that are the majority party and are controlling this state's agenda. And I'm the candidate that can pick up my phone and dial the Speaker of the House and have a conversation with her directly, say, do you understand what this really means to people in Sweet Home or in Brownsville or in Shed? And that's something unique that I bring. And so I think more of that, more of what I've done for well over a decade now.
Thank you. And Sherry, this final question will go to you first. In addition to the topic we've already covered, albeit briefly, what do you see that needs to be fixed in Linn County? What steps would you take to address it?
Certainly. Well, as we've both agreed here, I think that, and it's been said, the county is doing some great things. Nobody planned on this pandemic. Obviously, it's changed the landscape by far in significant ways. And this has not changed from September 12th, the day I filed and started running for this position. It's not changed in spite of the pandemic. And I think one of the greatest assets, hopefully, that I plan on bringing to the county is a little more transparency. Do I think the decisions are being made in back rooms in secret? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is I've lived the last 12 and a half years of my life at the state capitol on camera. People know what I'm doing all the time. They know how I vote. They know what I think in that building. It's an open book, and that's good. That is good. Certainly the press likes the Sunshine Law, and I think that's good. It keeps us accountable. I would like to have a greater degree of that in this county. And how do you do that? I'll tell you specifically. Number one, and I've watched other counties in the state do this, monthly or weekly meetings held in different parts of the county. You can do that. You can publicly post your meeting. It's legal, it's above board, and you have your meetings in different areas of the county, if for no other reason, to invite people to come in and watch the process. The second thing is technology. And it's funny, I was thinking about this before the pandemic, and now we're doing everything by Zoom or Microsoft Team meetings. And I'm not saying that's how I want to do business. I like showing up face to face, being in the room with people and just spending time with them. But the reality is not everybody can leave where they're at during these meetings. And we need to have them at least recorded, if not streamed, so people can see. Our government has got to be more accessible. And certainly it's something I've been fighting for and achieved. Got to always be accessible to people.
Thank you. And Carrie.
I think labor costs are going up 5 to 6% annually, and our revenue goes up 3 to 4. We need to continue to work on making the business model and the numbers sustainable. We need to push back on all added costs. The unfunded mandate suit that our county has against the state has gone to the Supreme Court, and we're expecting a decision on that tomorrow. This result will greatly impact the county's ability to develop a budget and a model that is sustainable. And that's one of the things that I think that we need to work on.
All right. Thank you. So that concludes the question and answer portion of this forum. What I'd like to do is give both of the candidates here 2 minutes to kind of sum up and have a closing statement if you'd like. And we'll just follow with the same order we've been doing. So Carrie, if you'd like to take 2 minutes to kind of summarize what you'd like to say to the public.
Well, I'm Carrie Johnson, and I care about Linn County. I'm working very hard to be your next Linn County Commissioner. I've spoke about what I want to focus on. I want to focus on jobs. I want to focus on small business. I want to focus on drug addiction, mental health, and I want to be the advocate of our community. I've lived here all my life, and this county is very, very important to me. I think I bring a unique set of skills with my small business background, being on the Linn County Budget Committee. I've chaired Willamette Community Bank for the last 12 years. I think I bring a unique set, and I'm proud of our commissioners. I like the fact that they're pro-jobs. I like the fact that they're pro-small business. And I want to see that continuity continue. So I would hope that you would consider me and vote for Carrie Johnson for Linn County Commissioner.
All right. Thank you for that. And Sherry.
Thank you. I've spent actually all of my adult life in public service, not because it's the exciting thing or it's a status thing. Frankly, when I became a state legislator back in 2008, one of the first things I did was to not accept the PERS compensation that legislators have a right to. And I jokingly say oftentimes I did that before it was cool to do that. And the reason is I didn't feel it was right to vote on an issue that would impact my family directly, good or bad. And so to me, it's about public service, plain and simple. It's not about anything other than advocating for my friends and my neighbors. I've been publicly elected. I know what it's like to sit and take a vote and know that you're going to be criticized by somebody for that vote. I know what it means to do the hard work and disagree with people and have to push a different button and know that they're going to disagree, but I've done the homework to know how the issue affects everybody. I can pick up the phone and contact any Democrat, certainly Republicans, but any Democrat, and say, let me explain this to you and how this impacts my neighbor. That's important. That's extremely important. Many years, many times for all those years, I was asked if being a state rep's a part-time job or a full-time job, because it's certainly a part-time pay. And I kind of chuckled and they said, well, how many meetings do you have to go to? What do you have to attend? And I said, you know, frankly, I don't have to do anything. But when you give me a job evaluation every 2 years, you get to decide if I did a good job or not. The reality is it was a 24/7 job. It was the gig, my only gig. And county commissioner is the same. It's not a part-time, it's not in addition to something, because frankly, I get calls on the morning of 4th of July. I have constituents knock on my door on Christmas Eve day. I've made myself accessible. I welcome that. I like that. This isn't about climbing the ladder. Frankly, this is stepping down, if you will. It's time for me to come home. It's time for me, as I look at retirement in a few years down the road, this is where I want to wrap up my time of public service, right here in Linn County, in the house that is 1.5 miles from where I lived as a kid, and make this a better place, not only for my family and my grandson, of course, but the rest of the families in this community that I know so well. And for that, I ask for your support and that you would vote for me, Sherry Springer, to be your next Linn County Commissioner.
All right. Well, thank you both. I'd like to thank both Carrie and Sherry. You presented yourselves well here. We certainly appreciate it, both in person and remote. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of this event. In order to get the information out in these trying times, you were thrown a curveball of what was originally to be a public event, to be able to get this out to people and let the public hear what our candidates have to say. I'd like to specifically also our facility hosts at San Am Travel Station. You've been great hosts, and I think we've made the best of a bad situation. And to the public for taking time and watching these videos, learning what the issues are, and making an informed decision when you vote. And I think that will conclude it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.